Cat, I see you. I appreciate you. We're going to have to do some hating in a few. When I'm done with the show, we're going to sprinkle a little salt and pepper on the game. All right. No, try to get my life together. You know what? I should have checked. In a second, family. Trying to get my life together. Alright, here we go. Hold on. Scratch. I hope y'all like the new Starting Soon. That's one I created. I'm crunk about it. I ain't even think about it until last minute. But okay, what's going on? Oh, do. That was not supposed to happen. All right, there we go. Now we're in business. Yeah. So I created that Starting Soon. I'm crunk about that, and I didn't even think about doing it prior. Normally, I just take something off of Streamlabs and put it on. Oh shit. Okay, there we go. And normally just use that, but I pay all this money for Canva, and Streamlabs don't always give me what I visualize, I envision for myself. So I switched the game up and created it myself. Sometimes y'all wish I could hear, like we could talk to each other. That'd be lit. But all right, I'm still trying to get my life together. Give me a second. Be patient. What is that? Are you trying to tell me something? Okay, there we go. I appreciate the love. For sure. Make sure I'm not doing too much. Never too much. Boom. All right, family. So glad to be back with you. Okay, hopefully. I appreciate it. And you on Twitch too, so I mean, not, Yeah. I appreciate you, family. As always. Supposedly last week when I checked TikTok, they was like, "You all good." I ain't even go live because I've been chilling. And then when I went to go try to add TikTok today, they was like, "Sorry, you suspended again." Like, little dog, how am I suspended? Hey, listen, I wish I could pay you for compliments, girl. Cause I would. You know what I mean? But I appreciate you as always. I'm happy to be back with you all. Happy New Year. Merry New Year. It's funny because that's what I sent around. I don't know if any of you all have seen Trading Places. That's one of my favorite movies ever. Yeah, I tried to do TikTok, but yeah, and every time when you report an issue, their support system is terrible because they rely too much on HI, AI, and AI doesn't understand what I'm talking about. It's like, sorry, I don't know. So it just gives you these same responses. And then the last one, they just closed it and didn't even respond to me. So I don't know. We're going to keep trying. Maybe one day I'll try to set up my phone and see how that goes. But, Boog, I appreciate you, black man. Thanks for joining on the YouTubes. Hopefully you can find something that you get tonight. Again, family, welcome. Merry New Year. I've been sidetracking talking. That's the one I send to everybody from See, Boog can't even see you. Liberty say, "What's up, Boog?" She on Twitch, man. So if you don't have Twitch, go ahead and set you up a Twitch, and then you can talk to some people on Twitch. You know what I mean? Facebook, be quiet unless my boy Terrence join. Twitch, not Facebook, quiet. YouTube's quiet sometimes till my man Terrence join. People be watching, they just don't be saying anything, which is weird. Because every time I look at my views, I get views, but they just don't be talking. So maybe I got to do a little more to make it a little more engaging. I don't know. So who am I? I am Soul Swami. And what we do here is discuss all things healing, whether it be through learning lessons. Oh, duh. Ha, ha. I forgot. Big Ruffin, thanks for joining. No doubt. You on Twitch? I appreciate you, family. That gotta be you, cuzzo. You know what's funny about that, Big Ruffin? I got this picture of David Ruffin on my wall. And one of my people sent it to me because they was like, that's what I remind them of. It's a dope picture too. One day I'll share it with everybody, but good to see you stomping around, family. So what we do here again is we discuss all things healing through various forms. We do that through conversation, live energy readings. I'm glad y'all can see each other on the screen, right? Live energy readings, discussions. We do a little bit of homework. We do a little bit of everything to try to create a space for us to be able to have a connected energy and heal and grow together. You can generally catch us every Tuesday and Thursday. I took the last couple of weeks off because the holidays and then a couple of things I needed to do for myself that I just want to make sure I put my energy towards that. But we back to start this year. But you can catch us every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram. And sometimes on TikTok, depending on how TikTok feel. They be wilding out sometimes. So TikTok does what it does, but as a matter of fact, like I said, I got suspended. No doubt. Boog on he on YouTube. That's why you can't see him. I'm trying to get people to join Twitch because on Twitch I can do a little bit more stuff. I can have y'all can gain points. So when I start doing my giveaways, you got to use your points to purchase stuff from my shop, like the 7 spaces of healing and all that good stuff. But generally at the beginning of every show, we do a little energy work, and we're picking that back up again. This week, to pick up where we left off, we are on the root chakra. The root chakra is good for your survival instincts, your sense of safety, your sense of stability, your sense of serenity, and your grounding. It's all about feeling connected to the people around you, and it's Soul Swami on Twitch, family. So generally, you find me on everything as Soul Swami except Facebook. Facebook, you gotta use my government, and that's Anthony. But everything else, just look up Soul Swami, and we on that. We live now too on that. So if you are into the color for your root is red. So if you are into color therapy, whether it be the clothes you wear, the lights, like we got light, hence the red lighting we got going on now. If you are into essential oils or aromatherapy, you want to think stuff like frankincense and myrrh, which I still continue to laugh at. Patchouli is pretty good for that. I'll shake a little extra black pepper on your food, and that'll help with your root too. If you are into crystals and gemstones, you want to think about red jasper. You want to think of garnet. You want to think of bloodstone. Black obsidian is very good. Black tourmaline is very good for your root chakra. Now, after that, we generally do a little sound therapy. We're going to pick up on that. Liberty, I hope you don't got the little one with you because we going back to the bowl today. So all you got to do is just be able to relax a little bit and listen to the sound. Maybe since she hasn't heard it in a while. Ah, it did work fantastic. Maybe since she hasn't heard it in a while, she might not disapprove. And I'm excited because I've been using the cloud bot a little bit more to put some comments in there, and it did put the comment to remind you that you can purchase the 7 Spaces of Healing available now on Amazon. Next, we'll do some breath work. Generally, we do 444, 478, 333, 369. I feel like box breathing, so we're gonna do a little 444. But during this time, all you have to do is just make sure you focus in on your breathing and listening to the sound of my voice as I'll keep track of the count for you. And as you're breathing, make sure you focusing on your energy, clearing some of the negative energy away, and attracting some of that positive energy that you want to do, that you need in your life. And then we'll do some affirmations. So again, if you are unfamiliar with box breathing, it is you breathe in for a 4 count, you hold your breath for a 4 count, and you exhale for a 4 count. But again, all you have to do is just listen to the sound of my voice, and I will keep the count for you. On the count of 3, family, we'll start. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Last time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. And as you are sitting there relaxing and thinking about the energy that you want to embody, I want you to repeat these affirmations after me. These affirmations are good for your root, again, to help you feel connected, safe, stable, secure, and all of those things. So, I am safe and secure. I am grounded and centered. I am self-sufficient. I am financially secure. I love being in my body. I am safe and secure. I am grounded and centered. I am self-sufficient. I am financially secure. And I love being in my body. All right, fam. So now we can get this party started. Here we go. All right. So I hope everybody had some good holidays. For me, it was very relaxing. I ate good. I gained some weight. I lost that weight. I did some things to work on my health. I actually had a couple of my wisdom teeth pulled. They were giving me a problem. As a matter of fact, that's why I took last week off. I was in the process of still healing. I'm still in the process of healing, but I'm a lot better, and we can get this show on the road. Something that wound up feeling good to my spirit was I wound up having the opportunity to see the impact that I've been having on people, and it came in various different ways, right? So one, is I got a homeboy, and I've talked about him 1,000 times on this show. And we wound up having somewhat of a disagreement for a while, which I talked about on the show. And of course, because he's been my man for since we were kids, that relationship was important to me. So we wound up doing the things that were necessary to repair that relationship. And in that process, when I went to have a conversation with him, or actually support him in one of his rituals, he was cutting off his locks. I brought a olive branch, and it was a piece of a stone that I got from one of the stone shows I go to. I actually picked a stone, they broke it for me. So the pieces of them, I decided to give them out to different people as I interact with them or whatever. So for my homeboy, I wound up giving him this piece. And a couple of weeks ago, he wound up making moves, right? And he got a new spot. And well, he's working at a new shop. And he wound up sending me a picture of the rock that he placed on the shop. It's the one thing that he got on his in his area, and that wound up making me feel good. That let me know that the impact, that olive branch, that was a good thing. You know what I mean? It impacted his spirit, and that is something that was important to him. So that wound up making me feel good. I talked about it like we listening to NPR, and we talked about it a little bit with the divine oneness. That the act of giving makes people feel good, but it also makes you feel good. So seeing that something I gave him was prioritized and was important to him enough to even share with the world, to put in a space that everybody could get to interact with it, was very good for my spirit, right? And then I wound up reconnecting with another person that we just kind of stopped talking over. Listen, sometimes me being a Pisces and interacting with other Pisces, because he's a Pisces, sometimes we bump heads or we disagree, and sometimes we need pauses or whatever we need necessary to help us rebuild our own. There we go. That gotta be Boog. No, I appreciate you joining. Um, we need our own space, so I wound up reconnecting with another Pisces, and they said something that was very spiritually important. On Thursday night is very different from our Tuesday night show. Thursday night is a spinoff of this Tuesday night show, but it is a book club. All I do is just read to you, so it's like a live audio book, right? So the purpose of that was for us to be able to be in a space to reconnect to that childlike energy in us by having someone read to us, right? And in this conversation with a friend, they were telling me how one of the things that they're proud of, that they've been doing a lot more reading, right? And of course, me, because I have book club, I've been doing a lot more reading too, which is very important because when I graduated from my master's program, I ain't reading no more books. All that reading stuff, it wasn't on a sign, it wasn't a quick note. I wasn't reading it. I didn't read. I just didn't read. So I haven't read I graduated from my master's in 2012. So I ain't reading until we started book club probably. We going on year 3. Pretty soon we'll be year 3, 2.5 years ago. So in that 10 years time span, Sean, I appreciate you. I didn't know that. Hey, there we go. Gratitude, Sean. I appreciate you joining. Um, yeah, thank you. So in that time, they were I ain't read a lot either. So when they told me they were proud of reading, I was like, yeah, well, book club has helped me read. And then they wound up saying, well, yeah, your book club got me reading too. Word? I didn't even know that. So one of that wound up helping my spirit feel good because you don't always know the impact that you have on people, especially in something like this. Because generally it feels like you're alone. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of like you're talking to yourself. It's a weird vibe or a weird situation. So you don't always know the impact that you have on people. And like I said, if they don't comment, I don't have any idea at all. But I do see that I have views and things like that. So I know people are watching. I just don't know. So when they told me that my book club wound up helping them to get a little more motivation to read a little bit more, and they have their own book club, their own little book group that's going on, and even expanding into their own avenue. But they created that made me feel good. That lets me know that the work we do here is something that is beneficial to society, right? A lot of times we wind up looking for these grand gestures of the effect that we have on people. But a lot of times they just come in those small little whispers that we never even thought of, but they're right on time where we need it to be poured into our spirit. So hearing those things wound up being fantastic things for me. All right, so this time we are, if you are not, you don't know what we're discussing, we are discussing the 12 universal laws, right? The 12 universal laws are essentially principles that govern the universe and life as a whole, right? And generally, it is from a metaphysical or philosophical point of view, right? Now, the difference between that, most of the science that we study is physical science. They even say that. Like, I have my undergrad degree is in biology, but that biology is a physical science, right? But the universal laws go beyond the physical science and they start going into the metaphysical science or the philosophical science, right? And how we wind up getting here is because we moved into this idea of wanting to understand the power of attraction, right? But when we start to understand the power of attraction, that's just one law, right? So in the context of the power of attraction, we need to understand how all these other laws or all these other principles wind up filling in and creating a framework that supports the laws of attraction. And the last episode, we wound up doing the first law, which was the law of divine oneness. What that means is everything in the universe is connected, right? That's every thought, every action, every event influences everything else. It's something like that idea of the butterfly effect. Butterfly Effect is one of my favorite movies. Most people don't like it, but I love it. But the butterfly effect is that idea of a butterfly will flap its wings over here and cause a tidal wave or a tsunami on the other side of the world. That means that small action, that small event has a rippling throughout the universe that causes other events, right? And that is the divine oneness. We wind up talking about how interconnectedness, separation is an illusion, right? And I talked about this with this idea of, like I said, my undergrad is in biology. And one thing I had to remember is chnops. I talked about chnops. Everything in the world, everything that we see that's matter, inanimate and animate, have these basic building blocks, some combination of these basic building blocks with something else. And I call it chnops because that's my mnemonic device. Chnops is carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. We even know that's true because when they look for dinosaurs, they do sulfur dating, or carbon dating, things like that. So this desk that I'm sitting at is made from these basic building blocks. The stars are made from these basic building blocks, and we as human beings are made from these basic building blocks. Then we discussed the implications of this idea of divine oneness. It lets you know that your thoughts really do matter. The things you think really do matter. They help to create the reality that you are experiencing. So if you are wondering about your life, if you are wondering about the things that you are seeing, if you are wondering about the things that you are experiencing, take a pause and think about the thoughts that you think, right? We also talked about how 90% of our reality is created from subconscious. So in that time where we think about our thoughts, we have to bring from the subconscious to our conscious mind some of these thoughts that we are not aware of that are producing or creating the reality that we are experiencing, right? We also talked about how feelings, right? Feelings, in the sense that the universe has no obligation to prove you wrong, right? More than likely, it's going to prove you right. So whatever you think, that's what you're going to get more of. So if you think down about relationships, do you think you're going to get a relationship that will prove your negative ideas wrong? No, you will get more relationships and more interactions, more of everything that will support what you already think, right? That's what they say that, right? So this is important because we talked about how compassion, empathy, and kindness, or the lack of influence the whole. So if you're leading with kindness, compassion, and empathy, that affects the whole and it can come back to you. But if that is not there, that also affects the whole and creates somewhat of a void for these emotions. And again, when we talk about emotions, emotions are natural, but feelings are the stories that we tell ourselves about those emotions, right? Then we talked about the physical science connectedness of the law of divine oneness. One, you find that in this idea of quantum entanglement. We talked a little bit about it on a couple of months ago. We talked about quantum mechanics and how that affects once we make a decision, we collapse all the possibilities because there's an infinite number of possibilities. But as soon as we decide or we make a decision, we cancel out and collapse all the possibilities, right? So that in that idea, we took a step back to be able to open up the possibilities again, right? And then it was this unified field theory, which says that all particles exist in one reality. So you can have a negative reality that exists and all the particles in that reality will support, or you can also have a positive reality, a reality of abundance, a reality of safety, a reality of stability, and all the particles of that reality will exist and support that reality. And then we also talked about this observer effect. The observer effect is simply you looking at it, you observing it, changes the outcome, right? And we talked about how we see this with children or pets. They are the perfect example of how our observations can change the behavior of our child or our children. Have you ever had your child just misbehaving and you just looked at them and they stopped? Or just noticing that children behave differently when they know someone's watching. Like some of these kids go to school and curse. But when they're at home, they don't do that same thing because the observer effect, you watching it, can change the outcome of how it happens, right? Then we also talked about how is this applicable to my life. The law of divine oneness is applicable because it increases your perspective. Remember, I told you, we're stepping back and opening up the possibilities. So more perspectives wind up being more tools to help us navigate this life, right? And then we talked about how applying empathy is putting that energy of empathy into our reality and ensuring that our reality functions on empathy. So when it's our turn to need empathy, it is readily available to us because that is an experience or an emotion that we apply to our reality. We give empathy, so we get empathy back, right? Then we talked about how we need to make mindful decisions in the way that we think about how we interact with things. We think about how this might affect things. We want to make decisions that understand that the decisions that we make create an energy, and would that energy be conducive to our growth, healing, or development? We want to talk about that. The next thing we talked about is don't isolate. One of the reasons we create these spaces for group energy is because we do not function alone. So for somebody to be able to give us empathy, for somebody to be able to give us compassion, we have to be in a space where we're not in isolation. Now, we talked about solitude as a tool to help us self-evaluate. So solitude is okay, but solitude is very different from isolation. Isolation is basically just taking hands off your own life. It's not active. It's not a tool. Next, then we talked about making sure we manifest with alignment. The things that we want in our life need to be in alignment with our healthy and healed self. We need to make sure that when we're trying to manifest this new reality, whether it be love, whether it be money, whether it be something as simple as a new job, we have to make sure that we are saying things or manifesting things that are in alignment with who we are as a person or who we want to be. Remember, because we're on this path of growing, right? The last series was talking about our identity and how we separate from the old identity from the new, but we recognize that we're not really separating. We're blending the two, dropping off things that no longer serve us to make space for things that will serve us, but keeping those things from our old self that do serve us, right? And then we talked about reducing stress, right? Make sure you reduce stress to be able to do that. That means practice gratitude, which is very funny because over the last few weeks, I've had a couple of questions that made me really think. One question was, what's the first thing that you would do if you won $5 million? And then the next question was, if I remove fear and obstacles out of your life, what would be the first thing you do? And to both of those questions, my answer is the same. The first thing I would do was sit in a space of gratitude. $5 million could change my life. The first thing I want to do is be thankful. Sit in a space of gratitude. Or if somebody removed the fears and obstacles in my life, I've lived with these fears and obstacles for so long that the first thing that I'd want to do is practice gratitude and be thankful for that, right? So this week we are on law number 2, and that is the law of vibration. What that says is everything in the universe is in constant motion and vibrates at its own frequency, right? That means physical matter, this desk, our thoughts, our emotions, and our energy is in constant motion. It's always moving, whether we are aware of it or not. Nothing is static, even when it's solid. The atoms that make up this desk, this solid desk, are still vibrating at a frequency, right? So in this law of vibration, certain things we want to make sure we understand. 2 things we want to do is understand energy and frequency, right? So higher vibrations, higher energy, higher frequency is usually connected to positive emotions. Things like love, gratitude, joy, or lower vibrations are associated with negative emotions, fear, angry, and negativity. That's what these people are talking about when they talk about low vibrational interactions, low vibrational people, and versus high vibrational people. They're talking about the energy that these people function in. Do they live in a space of gratitude, or do they live in a space of fear? Do they live in this space of joy, or do they live in this space of anger? Right? And you have that power to be able to adjust these things, right? So in understanding the law of vibration, first we must understand energy and frequency, right? High vibrations, low vibrations. High energy emotions, joy, gratitude, love. Low vibrational emotions, fear, anger, negativity. Next, we want to understand that we attract through vibrations, right? That means your personal vibrations, the energy that you carry, how you move through life, the vibrations that you put out into the world attract things in your life. So again, as I say, if you're wondering about your life, you're curious about the things that are happening in your life, you're not happy about those things that are happening, the first thing you want to do is stop and recognize the energy that you are carrying, because you attract what vibrates on your level, the same thing that vibrates on your level, right? Or even if you're wondering why you never experienced something, one of the reasons you've never experienced this is because you're not vibrating on this, right? I remember I heard this story, and it's wild because many of us have experienced that. Listen, that's funny that you say like attract likes, because they generally teach us that opposites attract. And there is some truth to that. But the second part of that statement is, but likes stay together. You do not find a positive person in a group of negativity. You do not find a negative person in a group of positivity. The part about that thing about opposites attract that is most detrimental that we leave out is it takes a cataclysmic event to separate those things. So you, in your life, if you've ever experienced that opposites attract, how did it end? I bet it was cataclysmic. It was a very big event, sometimes life changing, where you'll never be the same because you were not supposed to be connected with that in the first place, right? And then I was going back to that story, like the first time, well, not the first time, one time this idea wound up making the most sense in my mind was during this story of, have you ever like been out to the club one night and everybody's car got broken into except yours? That happens because you're not vibrating on a level where they can see you. They don't even know you exist. They can't even see you. So sometimes the things that we don't see exist, but we can't see it because we're not vibrating on those planes. Or sometimes people can't see us because we're not vibrating on those planes, right? The next thing we want to understand about this law of vibration is it has a conscious influence, right? What that means is you can raise or lower your vibrational frequency by consciously thinking about it, right? So that means like things like healthy living is consciously thinking about it. Meditation helps you consciously think about it. Prayer helps you consciously think about it. Living in a space of gratitude helps you consciously think about your vibration. Positive thinking, because again, we talked about how your thought process helps to create your vibration, right? So positive thinking shapes that, right? And that doesn't mean that you don't have instances where negative shows up. It does. You still have these instances. It doesn't remove you from life as we experience it. But what you do have that's more important is the tools to change that, the tools to navigate that, the tools to let these go. So when that negativity shows up, you have the power of positive thinking. You have the power of meditation. You have the power of prayer. You have the power of gratitude to change that negative energy into a positive energy. These are the tools that you use to help navigate life as you go through. It doesn't absolve you from experiencing tragedy. It doesn't absolve you from experiencing loss. It doesn't absolve you from experiencing failure. But what you do is have the tools to be able to navigate these events once they come into your life, right? So, what are the implications of what I just said? One, emotions play a central role in the law of vibration, right? That means essentially when we think about emotions, emotions are, simply put, energy in motion. And like I said, emotions are natural. Each word that we say creates an emotion. That's a natural thing. The one thing that helps us navigate emotions are our feelings. And feelings are the stories that we tell ourselves about these emotions. So if something negative happens to you and you feel disappointment, What is the story? What feelings? What is the story that you tell yourself about that? Do you tell yourself that that's what you deserve? Or that always happens to you? Do you feed into that? The dog that you feed is the dog that will win the fight, right? So are you feeding into that emotion, or are you using these tools, meditation, prayer, journaling, gratitude, positive thoughts to navigate that space, right? Next thing you want to understand is your energy sets the tone. Every action carries a vibrational energy. So when you're functioning in this space of calm, loving, and positive, your relationships and interactions with other people feel a little bit lighter. As opposed to if you're functioning in this space of anger, stress, fear, worry, then your relationships with people and interactions feel heavier. This is where people slide into that space of isolation. They don't even recognize how they're vibrating on this negative pain, this negative plane of stress, these lower vibrational emotions, that they feel like the only way to navigate this is to self-isolate. And again, that is just you taking your hands off of your own life. That is you opting out of your life when you isolate, right? Not solitude, but isolation is not good, right? So we want to, as a matter of fact, and understanding this, it really makes me think about how we navigate intimacy, right? One of the things I really had to think about when I was working on my sacral, which I'm still working on my sacral energy, is how I use energy, how I use intimacy, right? And many times people use intimacy as a stress reliever, right? So when you use intimacy as a stress reliever, you are leaving that stress in your partner and loved ones. So you want to be conscious of what you're doing, because you may be passing on these negative vibration, these low vibrational energies to someone that you love because how you are using them, right? You may need to take a step back and think of new ways to be able to relieve yourself of stress. Intimacy is something that should raise your high vibrations or support your high vibrations, right? So when we think about that, really take some time and think about how you utilize intimacy. Are you one of those people that utilize intimacy as stress relieving, right? And it was a little bit disheartening on how often I have left these negative emotions in the women that I dated, right? And then I'd wonder why they were acting crazy. Bro, I done dropped off all my stress inside of them. And now I'm shocked that the stress I gave them on top of the stress they have has them feeling emotionally or spiritually overwhelmed, because I was misusing intimacy as a way to relieve negative emotions. Right? The next thing we want to know about our implications of this is emotional resonance. That's this idea of we tend to match each other's emotions, right? Our vibrations unconsciously. We hear people say this all the time, that I'm matching energy, which is very interesting because generally when people say that matching energy, they mean negative energy. That positive energy can be overwhelming to them because it is not normal. And again, we've talked about how many of us, or many times, we confuse familiar with safe, right? So when people start thinking about matching energies, they a lot of times they're confusing the familiar with safe, so they're behaving in these negative ways. But when those positive things come, they don't know what to do, and their system sees it as danger, right? One way we wind up, another example of how this takes effects is laughing. We talk about how laughing is contagious. This is shared activity. If I start laughing enough, more than likely you're going to laugh too. That is how we share positive energy. That is the way we match energy. That means that when we go into a situation or an interaction or a relationship, our energy creates some sort of resonance that affects the whole, right? It affects how we interact. So have you ever talked to somebody and they were already in a bad mood, and it makes you like, wait a minute, you're not going to be talking to me like this. Now you got somewhat a bad mood. You're matching their energy, right? But when we understand that dynamic of emotional resonance, that lets us know that we can take a step back and change the whole energy by injecting positivity into it, right? Next thing we want to understand about the implication is communications have vibrations. Words carry energy. Well, we said each word has an emotion. So we're not just saying words. And if you don't think about that, take some time and think about the words that you experience. Part of our healing process has been reshaping our relationship with a lot of words. Gratitude, love, safe, forgiveness, worthy, family. Those are just some of the examples of some of our words that we've been reshaping our relationship with, right? Because we understand that words carry energy, emotion. Each word carries an emotion, energy in motion, right? And that's where this idea of spelling comes from, right? So when we're writing, we're learning language, they tell us that we're learning spelling because there is power in words. The things that we say, the things that we write, there is an energy in motion. That is not by coincidence that they call that spelling, because it is the power of emotion, right? That's also where we talk about this idea of speaking life into someone. We create this breath of life for each other in this space of soul, Swami, and healing, the soul family. That is speaking life into each other. It puts us in a space where we're surrounded by like-minded individuals who want to be their most authentic self and the best version of themselves. We breathe life into each other. We support each other. We say kind things. Even when we have to hold each other accountable, we remind each other of the importance of that accountability. We apply forgiveness and a lot of other tools that we wind up reshaping our relationship with. But we understand that. So we have the power to raise the vibrations of people by speaking life into them. Or we can speak death. Think about all the negative things that you've said to people, the energy in motion that you put in people when you spoke death. So pause and think about your own life. Are you speaking life or are you speaking death? Communication has powers. I always say one of my gifts is being able to receive messages through the wind, right? And when I say that, I'm talking about the breath, the words that we get, the energy in motion. I receive messages. People say certain things. I understand. The energy, I can see, feel, and hear the energy that's connected to those words that people say to me, right? Next, we want to make sure that what we are learning is grounded in scientific fact, right? A couple scientific ideas that support this law of vibration. The second law is atomic motion. Atomic motion is a physics idea. And it confirms that all matter is made of atoms, which we all know, and they are constantly in motion. Those atoms are always moving. Electrons, neutrons, protons moving in and out of the atom, moving side by side. They're always moving, right? The next thing we want to talk about, and it's important to say that these frequencies are measurable. The molecules, the way that they vibrate at the specific frequencies are measurable. A perfect example of this is water. Water is one thing that we can really see how it changes. We see water as a liquid, so the atoms are vibrating as one. We see water as a gas when we feel the humidity. That's water in the air. The frequency, those atoms are vibrating differently. And we also get to see water as ice. Even though it's frozen, those molecules are still moving. They're just moving very, very slow. So slow that it makes a whole new element that we didn't start with, right? Next, we want to understand that the idea that science is vibrations create waves. And like I said, these waves are measurable, these frequencies. We think about light waves, we think about sound waves. Those are perfect examples of waves that are measurable. We talk about all white light consists of all rays, all frequencies of light. That's red frequency, blue frequency. Roy G. Biv, another mnemonic device that we all know, for the colors of the rainbow. Those colors of the rainbow are just a separation of white light. And it allows us to be able to see all the other frequencies. But those frequencies that vibrate are measurable, right? And then that's that idea of resonance that we talked about several times. That means vibrational systems influence other vibration systems, right? You can see that as simply if you sit in a chair that vibrate, now you vibrating. It's that simple. So those are all scientific, physical science ideas that this idea of the law of vibration is connected to. It is built on scientific fact, but it moves from the physical science into the metaphysical science so that we can understand the seen and the unseen, right? Now, most importantly, all of this is a lot of information that we're trying to digest here. So how is all of this applicable to my life, right? The first thing we want to remember, if we don't remember anything else, is your energy sets the tone. Your energy sets the tone. That's important. So that means you need to protect your energy, not your peace, but your energy. That means avoid energy drain. Things like limit blame. Accountability helps to limit blame. Limit criticism. Don't be so hard on yourself and others. Sometimes it's easy for us to be hard on others because we're so hard on ourselves. But we learn. Grace was one of those words that we wound up reshaping our relationship with. So we avoid energy drains once we understand our energy sets the tone for every interaction. And we want to avoid negative spirals. That's specifically for the overthinkers. Overthinkers have a tendency to get caught up in that negative spiral. But we understand prayer, meditation, positive thoughts, all of those things that help combat those negative spirals so we don't have to spiral down. We can spiral up, right? The next thing you want to make sure you understand how this is applicable to your life is your emotions shape your energy. Again, we talked about how emotions is energy in motions. And simply put, high vibrational energies attract positive experiences and people. Low vibrational energies attract negative experiences and people. It's funny because there was a point in my life where I did a lot of different things, right? And specifically, it was about thinking about, I'm trying to say, how can I say this without causing internet problems? But what they call it, the devil's lettuce, right? They say the devil's lettuce is a gateway, right? And I remember coming up, I used to think that that was so false, because that doesn't mean you're gonna start taking Ready Rock, hard white or white. That doesn't mean you're gonna move on from the devil's lettuce to something that's more intense, right? Listen, Boog, that is important. You gotta give grace because you never know when you need it. But one thing that we want to make sure we understand in saying that is the first person that we give grace to is ourselves. We are deserving of grace more than anybody else. And many of us have that tool to be able to give grace to other people. We give them forgiveness. We give them understanding for their mistakes. But when it comes to us, we struggle with that. So all of these things that we're learning, all of these things that we're incorporating into our lives, we understand that we're doing this because we deserve it first, right? So grace is important. But the first person that needs that grace is ourselves, and we got to make sure we give it to ourselves. The next way that this is applicable to your life is environment. Your environment affects your vibrations. And that doesn't just mean where you live, because you can live in a negative environment and still have high vibrations. What that means is surround yourself with uplifting people, uplifting music, and uplifting spaces. One of the reasons I wrote this 7 spaces of healing is because of this right here. The 7 spaces of healing winds up being a guide for us to be able to recognize these spaces that we need to insert ourselves in and cultivate within ourselves, right? These spaces that will support us being the best version of ourselves, right? Because that energy, remember, we function on those 4 bodies: emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical. Making sure that you are in these spaces that support the growth, development, and authenticity of those bodies is very important. Your environment affects you. That's why we do this. It creates an environment, at least for one day. We are surrounded by people and energies that support the direction that we are going in, supports uplifting us. It supports our growth, development, and enhancing our understanding. It provides us with new tools or creates a space for us to sharpen the tools we already had, and a space to be able to practice those tools and those things, right? So we understand that the environment affects your vibrations. What you listen to does. Music is vibrational. Your body is vibrational. Your thoughts are vibrational. Your emotions are vibrational. Do not disconnect from the vibrations around you thinking that they don't affect you. We learned last week in the divine wholeness, in the law of divine oneness, that these connections can be connected across distance. So you don't have to be specifically right there where they make the music for it to fully affect you. You can be walking by and listening to it, and it affects you across distances. That's the understanding that we know. The environment affects your vibration. Second, your thoughts are vibrational signals. That means thoughts are energy. We talked about that. And energy has a vibration, right? Your fears, right? What we want to do in understanding that thoughts are energy, we want to make sure we focus on what we want versus our fears. And we want to make sure that we align ourselves with higher frequencies. This is one of the reasons why we do affirmations and sound therapy at the beginning of each show, right? Because at least for those moments, we are aligning ourselves with what we want and not our fears, right? We want to feel this week, we want to feel safe and secure. So we speak that because it becomes our reality. We want to feel grounded and centered. We speak that because that vibration becomes our reality. Not only do we just speak it, but we embody it. That means we become the living word. We don't just say these things, but we incorporate it all the way down into our spirit so that we have emotions that reflect these vibrations, right? That we want to make sure that we are self-sufficient. That is important. Those are thoughts that we say. That's the importance of the affirmation that we say at the beginning of every show. Although sometimes it might seem a little repetitive, but that is the discipline we need to change the way we used to think or how we used to function, right? We say it because it creates a pattern of behavior for us. We say it enough. That's where that idea of fake it till you make it. When we started this, we ain't firmly believe this. Right? I said this, no lie. When we started this show, I had no job. I was in between careers because whatever I was doing, I didn't want to do anymore. So I had to make sure that I didn't spiral down. I spiraled up. So we started saying affirmations because that's the energy we want to project to the world. That's the energy we want to internalize in ourselves. We want to be happy in our bodies, right? The next way that is applicable to your life is that we understand that relationships are reflections of our vibrations. Not for us to obsess over the mistakes, because again, that's where that idea of grace come in. You're going to make mistakes. You're human. We are living, breathing beings. And flawed. We talked about our we're imperfectly perfect. I had to think about that. You know, that might I think that might be a good idea. Because I kind of feel like we just kind of end the show. We just wrap it up. I'm like, next week we're gonna talk about this. Goodbye. So I think that's a good idea. We'll probably we'll try it tonight, see how it goes, Liberty. I appreciate that's a great idea. See, this is the good thing about this, right? This is why we create this atmosphere for everyone, right? Because this is for all of us. Even though I'm doing the talking, this is for all of us. Because we all are creating this safe space for us. So if you have ideas on way that we can grow the energy or shape the energy to make it more impactful for us as a family, then we can do that, right? So don't ever be afraid to share your ideas, your thoughts. If it makes sense for where we're trying to go, we can incorporate that. We've been building this ship together. Remember, we started from a folding table and an ottoman. All the way to here we are now, and we'll keep growing from here. We didn't even have a book when we started. We just started talking about 7 spaces. That turned into the book. Now we're going to have more books, right? So that is what this space does for us. It creates a safe space for us to even share our ideas with people who will be able to receive them in a healthy way, right? So relationships are reflective of your vibration. Simply put, positive energy attracts what? Positive people and positive experiences. So if you're wondering why you've had negative experiences in relationships, it's because somewhere subconsciously you really do think negative about relationships, right? Or there are aspects of relationships you never even thought of. For example, safe. During this healing process for us is where I began to recognize that feeling safe in relationships is important. Somebody asked me, "Hey, do you feel safe with me?" And as wild as it was, I laughed in their face and said confidently, "I don't feel safe with nobody." But I heard myself. And I said, "Did you hear what you said? You don't feel safe with nobody?" So that means somewhere subconsciously, the reason why I was never safe in relationships is because I didn't think I could be. It wasn't something that was important to me. But in this healing process, we recognize that a relationship with safety is important. So we reshape that relationship, and now we prioritize safety in our interactions because we want to influence. We want to be a safe place so that we can attract safe spaces for ourselves, right? And in understanding this, that our vibrations affect our relationships, that's one of the reasons why we raise our vibrations. Again, because if we raise our vibrations, you know what we'll have? Better relationships. We'll have people that we feel safe with. We'll have people that support us. We'll have people that love us. We'll have people that are authentic. We'll have people that hold us accountable. We'll have people that will be there for us because we are that person. We've internalized these feelings and emotions and shaped it in a way that now it is a part of our essence, right? And because of that, we improve our relationships. Why? Because we attract more people like that, right? And initially, and this is the truth, initially when you start doing that, it's not easy. Because there are going to be pieces of you that still attract some of those old relationships, those old instances. But now you have the tools to recognize that and avoid them. And the more you avoid them, the less they will show up in your life. And then you'll have a nice area, a nice plane for healthier relationships, right? Because it starts with us, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, the energy we carry, right? Lastly, we want to talk about how this is applicable to your life is we can heal through vibrations, right? Again, that's like when we talk about healing through vibrations, all of this is healing through vibrations. But in this aspect, we want to think specifically as it relates to conflict. Like I've said a million times, peace is not the absence of conflict. It's having the tools to be able to navigate conflict in a healthy way, right? So healing through vibration in the context of conflict, when conflict arises, now we understand that we have the tools to affect this conflict by how we carry our energy, how we approach that. And we want to make sure that we raise our vibrations through things like breath work. That is exactly why we do breathing exercises before we get started. We want to make sure that we are in a space of high vibrational energy, so we pause and raise that vibrational energy through breath work, and then those affirmations come in play, right? Then we talk about that. Meditation helps you to be able to raise your vibrations. We talked about that. Calming thoughts, positive thoughts, all those things help you to raise your vibrations, right? And this is important because when this conflict arises, taking that pause to raise your vibrations helps you approach this conflict with a calm mind and a clear mind so that you can address it with empathy, grace, forgiveness, love, understanding, whichever tool that you need to speak life into that situation, right? Whatever tool that you need to speak life, because we're mindful of how often we're speaking death into the experiences around us, right? So, family, that is the law of vibration. And next week, we will be doing the law of correspondence. And I have mentioned that a bunch before. It's simply put, the law of correspondence is as above, so below. If it exists outside of you, if you've seen it outside of you, you can guarantee it exists in you. It's within, it's also without. It's the same thing, right? So this week we'll be back on book club. We've been off of book club a couple of weeks. If you don't catch us again on Thursday, we are continuing to read. What are we doing? Razor Blade Tears, which I've been enjoying, almost called the Switchblade Sisters. It is not Switchblade Sisters. That is a movie. If you've never seen it, it's a good B movie. Remember, I'm the king of B movies. I love a good B movie. Switchblade Sisters is old. It's a wild movie. Take some time. You want something like that. But correspondence, the law of correspondence that we're taking, we'll be discussing next week. And I know, right? Switchblade Sisters. I'm sorry. It is a real movie too that most people don't know. You laughing? Scrappy, I appreciate you. I'm glad you said something too. So, I don't never know if you ever seen Rosewood for everybody else. Because I know, listen, if you're a part of my life and this is how you know I like you, or you've impacted my life, I give you a nickname. And I will give you a nickname in a heartbeat. So when I think we almost time. I think we still probably got a couple of more weeks. Anyway, I give you a nickname. So somebody I went to college with reminds me of Scrappy from Rosewood, Patrice. So I always call her Scrappy still, even though her name is not Scrappy. She just reminded me of Scrappy from Rosewood. So I say that. I say Scrappy. Yes, it is almost time for a new book. I'm not even going to ask. Generally, I do a poll to ask what book you want to do, or I just go back to the first poll and pick one of the books from there. But this next book, I already know what we're going to do. We're going to do another Lavelle book, right? Because there's this show on Apple TV that is called Changeling, right? And it's a dope show, right? But they only have one season. And the show isn't officially canceled, but I think it's fell into oblivion. So we're never going to see season 2. And it left you with a cliffhanger. So the only way I'm going to know what happens next is reading the book. So we're probably going to wind up reading Changeling as the next book, because I just want to know what happens. I couldn't end, like at the end of the first season, the mom is riding off on a boat to go find her baby, which is interesting. Now you got to be in the sci-fi, because it's really a sci-fi thing. Because I don't know, some witches or some trolls or something like that took her baby. But we've been reading a bunch of Lavelle books, so we'll probably finish. We'll do Change in the next. And to wrap up, thanks to the suggestion from Liberty. I hope so. They generally say the books are better, and of the books that I read that there are movies to, I generally agree. I'm trying to think of that movie where, oh God, I don't know why I cannot think of that book to save my life, but it's about the father and it's a couple. They wind up losing their daughter early in the Dang, I ain't even read Forrest Gump book, but they wind up losing their daughter they went camping or something, and she wound up drowning. So then they lost their relationship with God, and then the father wound up meeting God again, and God wound up being a woman. As a matter of fact, he ain't just meet God; he met the Holy Trinity. But the book was amazing. The movie was okay. So I anticipate the book to be a little bit better. So I expect that. Again, to wrap this up, we were on our route. And remember, I am safe and secure. I am grounded and centered. I am self-sufficient. I am financially secure. And I love being in my body. Family, I appreciate you. TikTok fam, I appreciate you joining us. I know y'all love TikTok. I'm glad you are able to catch me on one of the other things, because TikTok, I'm gonna try to work on TikTok so they can stop banning me. I email them, and hey Sean, I didn't even see you over there. Thanks for going to Instagram too. Whoop, 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 whoop. They generally ban me, but we're gonna figure it out, and we try to include that so everybody can catch us on the app that they feel most comfortable about. But again, I appreciate your support. I appreciate the cat house, the Sassy Cat family. I appreciate you all. Boog, Sean, Cuzzo, Cat, the rest of y'all, you know what I mean? Thank you for supporting us. I hope you wind up getting something that resonates with your spirit. And I hope you can catch us in next week when we talk about the law of correspondence. And remember, you are safe and secure. You are grounded and centered. You are self-sufficient. You are financially secure. And you do love being in your body. I thank you, and I will see you Thursday for book club. Happy New Year, family. Peace. I know that's right. Liberty, I appreciate you. Listen, okay, before I hang up too, this side note, I'm just talking. Listen, the person that used to get mad that you support me, they wound up blocking me, right? So I don't have to worry about nobody being mad at me because you're nice, which is wild. They was super mad at me because you support. I mean, they called me, they was ready to crash out over liberty. And all I used to say is, we talk about relationships are reflective. They're reflective of your past, present, and future. And I understand why they would be triggered, because they knew in the ways that you would support me, they wanted to support me as well, but they weren't. They had excuses, right? But you don't really make excuses. You just do what's necessary. So thank you. I appreciate you. Family, I'll see you Thursday for book club. If you don't make it Thursday, I hope to see you back here Tuesday for another episode of Soul Swami Live. And enjoy my self-created ending and beginning. Peace, family.